Yo, so it's that time of Genshin Impact's development cycle again, where we get to see another preview trailer for the next patch. This time it's 2.5, when the Sakura blooms. So if you've been looking at the leaks or using like 10% of your brains, you probably already know what's going to be in this, but we're going to watch it anyways. I'll be going over the English version, the Japanese version, the Chinese version, and the Korean versions. And let's just see what this is all about.
All of Enkanomiya is engulfed in a darkness that cannot be dispelled. There have also been reports of monsters, the likes of which no one has ever seen before.
I really like Akomi's voice in the English version. Probably more than the Chinese one.
All-engulfing darkness?
So you're here to help resolve this, hmm?
What's with you joining forces with them? I would say this is a nice surprise, but it's really not that surprising.
Oh damn, that's Enjo. He actually gets voice lines in the 2.5 trailer, but he doesn't have any actual voice lines in the actual game because Enkanomiya is not voiced. It's just a world quest. It's an entire world quest area, right? So it doesn't get any voice lines. I'm glad that at least he got his voice confirmed in 2.5 because I think a lot of people were thinking that the 2.4 the throaty constipated sounding voice in 2.4 was his actual voice, which wouldn't be bad, I guess. Or I don't know if they're even the same or different voice actors, but this one sounds a lot more joking and childish, and I think that's what people were imagining when they were playing and interacting with Enjo. So I'm guessing at least that's accurate.
Enkanomiya is exceedingly dangerous right now.
Here's hoping I have the chance.
This tower seems to hear my wishes.
There's darkness churning inside the Dainichi Mikoshi!
Do not come any closer.
That's a
Do you
tree,
honestly
right?
have another choice?
This is giving me some real Marvel, Valhalla, Viking, Norse mythology vibes.
O Hakushin, cause of this enchantment,
Your unrivaled power will be honored eternally.
Okay, I'm pretty sure this part is not part of the Enkanomiya story quest because this looks like an actual voice cutscene.
you're all right, little one. You look a little
So it's probably going to
nervous.
be part of Yaemiko or Raiden A's story quest.
Now you've got my attention. Right now. Come on out. Is that all? I'm always watching.
Good. With this power, no one shall be able to stand in my way.
Wait, is this the dungeon thing where we play kind of like this roguelike
Looks like
game?
she will no longer allow me to do with this body as I please.
Something seems wrong with A.
During my absence, I place everything in Miko's hands.
Wait.
But this means
Okay, so I think it was pretty obvious that we would be fighting Raiden A again. Not Raiden A, but the Raiden Shogun, right? Because I think most of us guessed that there would be some sort of internal conflict where we have to fight the Shogun puppet because she still has this programming in her head, right? That she needs to fulfill the eternity clause or fulfill the ideals of eternity, whereas A is kind of changing, and I'm thinking this is how they will kind of redeem her. But I don't know. This is probably going to be her second story quest, and since it introduces another boss, kind of like Agedaha for John Lee, so I'm hoping that they do a really good job of it. I liked the first story quest for John Lee more than Agedaha, but I didn't like A's first story quest that much. So maybe this one will be different. I just hope it's good. I hope it's substantial. I hope it does change my mind about A so that I can roll for her without feeling like a dumbass because I only roll for aesthetics and story quest stuff. I don't give a shit about meta.
I'm placing my god in your capable hands. Please, bring her back.
Dude, that was Yaemiko, right? I hate how she just gives us stuff to do for A. This was the same thing back in 2.1, I think, with the story quests, where for A's story quest, right? When we found out that there were storms all around Inazuma and they were going haywire because the Raiden robot was not doing its job. And then we go to Yai, and she's like, "Yeah, I have the keys to her room, but I'm not gonna bother to actually go talk to her. So here's the keys. You go do this shit." Even though she's supposed to be A's best friend. So I hope it makes more sense in this story. Maybe she's like incapacitated, or she's like really weak or something. I don't know.
You wish to make yourself my enemy? I am the everlasting Lord, the guardian of eternity. Inferior! Perish! Ruin follows my blade! Witness the final calamity!
Yep. It's A versus A. And they're holding different weapons. So are they wearing the same clothing? But they are, I don't know if they are or not, but they are wielding different weapons. So that probably, I think the one with the sword is probably going to be A, right? Because she's the one who is invested in the sword. Her spirit is literally the sword itself, whereas the one holding the spear is probably the Raiden Shogun. Because she doesn't have the sword? I don't know. She's the one in reality, right? Also, I think this is the first time we... Sorry for my cough. I think this is the first time we actually get to see another form of the Archons, right? This is probably... The hand thing is something that... I think we've seen this before in one of John Lee's concept arts. Where there are like two hands below him while he's in his Archon form, or at least wearing his Archon clothing. So maybe we'll get the same thing for Venti or Zhongli. Alright, so after this it's just like explanations for all the quests, for all the events, that kind of stuff. That doesn't matter, so let's just go to the Chinese version and see what this is like.
姚于三番队传回来的联络里提到说，无法驱散的黑暗盘踞整个渊夏宫，同时还出现了没有见过的怪物。
没有见过的怪物和无法驱散的黑暗。
The Chinese Kikomi voice is pretty good too.
是来帮忙解决问题的吗？
The Miko's voice, however, sounds just completely different.
该说意外呢，
Same with Enjo.
还是说毫不意外呢？
Enjo sounds so much more authoritative and like deeper in Chinese. It's a completely different feeling.
似乎能听到我的愿望。
大日玉宇内部出现了翻涌的黑暗。
你不要靠近他。
现在难道你们还有的选吗？
身告白臣，朕魂之忧。
位位神位，诚惶诚后。
怎么了，小家伙？看你有点紧张呢。好了，要认真一些了。咒镜，显化，就这样，真瞳显现。
很好，很好。得到这股力量，就没有人能阻止老神的计划了。
看来，他已经不允许我胡乱使用这个身体了。
影的样子是不是稍微有点不对劲？
我不在的这段时间，一切就交给神子他们了。
可是这样一来，
我的神明就交给你了，你可要好好努力啊！你要与我为敌吗？
怎么会？
我是万世不变的法则，我是永恒的守护者。愚钝，断绝，分段溃灭，终归。
I think A's voice in both Chinese and English are one of those rare occurrences where I think both of the voices are equally good. I do prefer the Japanese voice, but they're all very good, which is really rare in Genshin Impact, in my opinion. Usually, I find like at least one version of the voices where it's just completely off from my expectations. So it's fairly similar, but you do notice there are like tiny translation differences, or tiny, not really tiny translation differences. The translation connotations don't really make it through the translation. I can't speak today. So you notice here that each line has 4 Chinese characters. That's because they're speaking in idioms right now. So there's a bunch of connotations here that probably won't make it into the English version. And I do think it does have a different feeling to it, but I'm not the expert on this. So I'm sure the English translators did a good job. And from my cursory understanding of what these idioms mean, they are pretty much the same thing, but the connotations are different because when you go to like A's ideals about eternity have a lot to do with Buddhism. If you go look on Twitter or do any in-depth research on her, she uses a lot of Buddhist terminology essentially, and this is no different in her arc on Thor. Right, so up until this point, it's fairly similar to the English version. Yeah, that's also pretty. Yudun means inferior or clumsiness. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Wanjie is a Buddhist terminology for eternity or a long time, and Zhonggui is the finality or the final return to eternity or something like that. I'm pretty sure this is a Buddhist terminology. I could be wrong. So if you do know about this, then you can inform me on it. But yeah, it's a tiny bit different in terms of connotations to the English version. It sounds way more threatening in the English version. They're both really threatening, but here it sounds like the final calamity. What the fuck? I don't think this is... Yeah, the more I think about it, the less I feel like witness the final calamity is the right translation. But, you know, in the absence of better equivalents, this is probably the best you can get. And I think this is a perfectly fine translation for this context. Okay, here's the Japanese version. Damn, is this Komi's voice in Japanese? Okay. Okay, I don't like this one. Wait, was that an actual cutscene? Yeah, that was an actual cutscene, right? So, are we going to fight Enjo again? I really like the Japanese version of the Shrine Maiden's voice. It sounds exactly like how I imagine it should be. It's kind of neutral, and Enjo's voice in Japanese is just whatever. It sounds like a generic deep throaty voice.
せよ。その程度か？振動の権限。
ロイ、実に素晴らしい。この力があればわしの計画を止められる者などおらん。
どうやら彼女はもう私にこの体を好き勝手使わせる気がないようです。
A の様子なんかおかしくないか？
私のいない間全てを巫女たちに任せます。
でもそれじゃあ
わらわの神汝に託したぞ。全力を尽くしてきてくれ。
あなたは私の敵になるというのですか？永久不変の規則の上、永遠の守護者。愚鈍ですね。断絶。あなたを切り裂きましょう。永劫に帰す。
I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but the music, man, the music really makes these trailers. Yu Pengchen, this guy is actually a genius. Like, I swear, like 90% of the reason why I play this game, except for the Boobas, is probably because of this guy. Yai's voice in particular is the highlight of the Japanese version for me. Like, it's exactly how I imagine Yai to be. It's way better than English and the Chinese versions, in my opinion. As for everything else, it's just okay for the Japanese version. Nothing really stands out to me. But Yai, if I actually do main Yai in the future, I definitely will be playing on the Japanese voice just to hear her, like, hear her voice lines. The Chinese one is too soft, and the English one is just... The English ones is actually okay, but I prefer the Japanese one. I feel like I prefer the Japanese voices for most of the main Japanese characters, or the Inazuma characters in Genshin Impact, with the exception of Kokomi.
가오리 3번대는 연화궁 전체가 몰아낼 수 없는 어둠에 휩싸여 있다고 보고했어.
Korean Kokomi is actually pretty good as well.
괴물이 나타났지.
아무도 본 적 없는 괴물과 몰아낼 수 없는 어둠?
Again, Korean Paimon is my second favorite compared to Chinese Paimon is probably my favorite voice for her, and then it's Korean, and then it's Japanese, and then it's English. Nothing against any of the particular voice actors again, but I feel like when I have to listen to a voice all the fucking time, I would rather it be softer and smoother than just sharp and high-pitched. The Japanese one is pretty good as well, but sometimes she can sound like an old lady, like with this trailer, or the past one.
두 분은 이상 현상을 해결하기 위해 온 것인가요?
See, this is a very smooth voice as well.
지금의 연화궁은 매우 위험합니다.
만약 기회가 된다면
이 타부는 제 소원에 반응하는 것 같더군요.
다행히 집 입구시 내부에 어둠이 꿈틀대고 있어.
가까이 오지 마세요.
지금 다른 선택지라도 있어.
I feel like the Korean Shrine Maiden is doing a trailer voice.
진논으로 말미암아 하쿠신에게 구합니다.
당신의 신은 황공무지로소이다.
Oh, Hakushin is pronounced the exact same way in Korean as in Japanese.
왜 그래, 꼬마야? 긴장한 것 같네?
Yeah, this one's pretty good as well, but at the end of the day, I prefer the Japanese version.
좀 진지해져야겠는걸? 주술, 나타나라. 이게 다야? 진실의 눈동자.
좋아. 이 힘만 있다면 내 계획을 막을 자는 없다.
그녀는 내가 이 몸을 멋대로 사용하는 걸 거부하고 있는 것 같군.
A의 모습이 조금 이상한데?
내가 없는 동안은 미코와 다른 사람들이 이나즈마를 맡아줄 거야.
우리 신을 부탁해. 최선을 다해줘.
넌 나와 적이 될 생각인가?
어떻게 이럴 수가?
난 영원 불변의 법칙, 그리고 영원한 수호자이다. 어리석고 단장. 금연하라. 천수의 속박.
I don't know why more people don't talk about the Korean localization, because I think it's actually the most consistent in terms of quality compared to the other localizations. Like if I had to choose just one version to play all the time, I would actually choose the Korean version, because even though I don't understand it, I like all the voices. Like when none of the voices are particularly, like, what's the word? Annoying, or particularly annoying. Like when the Chinese version tends towards the more softer side of the voices, whereas the English version has more high pitched and sometimes more deeper voices. The Japanese ones also have deeper voices as well, but sometimes they can also be really high pitched. So I think the Japanese voices have the most, what's it called? The most variation. The Korean version is the most consistent. The English version can be the most annoying, to be honest. Whereas, and tends towards either the very spiky and edgy voices, kind of like not Venti, but Xiao, and high pitched voices are like Paimon. Whereas you have like really deeper voices like Ito, not Ito, but John Lee. John Lee is just the epitome of good voice acting in the English version. But if I had to just choose one, I would definitely play the Korean version. This one is just all the voice actors are just so good. The voice direction is inoffensive. Everything is just so good. Anyways, so that's the 2.5 trailers in all the languages. I hope you enjoyed my rants. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to guys' redemption, not redemption. I hope what I want is for it to make sense, right? I want some kind of backstory so that it's not just what I hope it's not is just, oh, the Raiden Shogun is angry that A is changing her mind, so I guess she just has to rebel now because she's a robot. Because everybody thinks that's what's going to happen, right? We already know that. If it just confirms our suspicions and what we already know about the story, I think it's going to be really boring. So I hope it's not that. I hope they do something a bit different with it. And I also, this is a really strange request, but I hope it's not too long-winded, because I felt like John Lee's second story quest, the one where we got introduced to Agedaha, was a bit needlessly long. Like, we spent way too much just outside the chasm, going around and collecting shit, and then in the end to go to like this dungeon to beat the shit out of him. So I hope that's not what happens. I hope it's just story, like pure unadulterated story. Just A and Raiden having a big long conversation, and then we just get to be part of that. So yeah, see you guys later. This is Bench Gamer signing out.